Okay. Occupy Wall Street. You've searched it. The pros. First, the richest 1% of Americans already own nearly half of all U.S. wealth, and more than double their share, and the lower 99% of Americans own less than 10% of all U.S. wealth. And the rich want more, and you can see this chart and the other pictures. And second, the corporate greed. The big international corporations are abusing their power and it destroying the democratic process. The most of the wealth and world's finance are under their control. This obviously counters to democratic principles. And in this chart, corporations have seen enormous gains in total liquid assets since the 1970s. And it's called like corporate greed. And the natural resource, this is the land of the earth and all of its natural resources are the exclusive property, and one can have it on their own. And all wealth of any economy begins with a social contract that grants individuals the temporary control of that resources. And this social contract should not be without any conditions. And next, the unemployment rate. Unemployment is damaging people's mental health, and when people lose their jobs, they often are optimistic as they search for a new one, but after a while they get worn down and discouraged, and that's why they start to see the mental health problems, according to an expert. And the unemployment is increasing continuously. And in this chart, in 1979, production and non-supervisory workers saw a 119% rise in productivity and a 100% rise in compensation from 1947. But as you can see, their wages have gone up just 8% rates, so this is very unfair. And next, medical insurance. Over the past few years, many of the largest health insurance firms have converted from non-profit to for-profit status and have been acquired by huge corporations whose stock is traded on the New York Stock Exchange. These companies have grown so big and powerful that they now often determine who has access to affordable care in 2000. So people in Occupy Wall Street, many people are protesting about the problems in medical insurance. And next, the education. As you can see in this chart, the higher education, the tuition and fees are increasing continuously. College tuitions, and there needs to be a free government-funded college option for anyone interested in pursuing higher education, I think. And the other problem is like each teacher, school, or district needs to have the choice to run their classroom or system in a way which they, as local experts, know will best benefit their students. And next, the housing cost. And the Wall Street created the housing crisis. First, the government started making banks an offer to start making loans to bad risks, and this was like the unspoken threat. So, although the subprime and other risky mortgages were relatively rare before the mid-1990s, their use increased dramatically after, so during the subsequent decade. All of this worked out fine, but when the bubble burst, the whole system was doomed. And if the government hadn't created the underlying bubble, there wouldn't have been no crisis to spread. And this tax problem, as you can see in this chart, the payroll tax is a tax that employers are required to withhold from employees' wages, and it's continuously increasing, and the corporate tax is continuously decreasing. So when government gives banks and Wall Street some of the taxpayers' hard-earned money in direct funds, guarantees, and near-zero interest loans, and then they turn around and spend it on bonuses and high-risk investments rather than fixing the real economy for the 99% who have been affected. And the last one is political corruption. People have spent time that their needs and their interests are not being represented at the level of the country, and quite to the contrary, that the austerity measures that are being pushed through are actually harming them and taking away their livelihood. So this is it. Thank you.
Go ahead.
I'm Kon San, and I will tell you 5 reasons why Occupy Wall Street movement is wrong. And number 1 is there's no specific assertion. Let's look at the video. This is an ad, it's not the real video. Just wait a second.
This is vodka. Drink responsibly.
That's the protest?
Seriously? The Occupy Wall Street protest entered its 3rd week today. What started as less than a dozen college students camping out in the park near the New York Stock Exchange is now hundreds of protesters, and it's spread to other cities. But what are they protesting? Nobody seems to know. So this afternoon, we went to Wall Street to find out. And despite what you heard, here's what I saw. It's not just a bunch of dancing hippies protesting. There are all kinds of people there. Babies, teachers, cheerleaders, Uncle Santa, and that. Seriously, it's a mixed bag, but they were happy to take some time from their books, banjos, bongos, sports drinks, catered lunch. Yeah, that was catered lunch. Designer yoga clothing. That's a Lululemon logo. Computers, lots of MacBooks, and phones to help us get to the bottom of it. This is unemployed software developer Dan. What do you do for a living?
I'm a software developer.
Software developer. So
Yes.
currently employed or unemployed?
Unemployed.
Unemployed.
Unemployed, we like to call it.
Unemployed.
It's called Occupy Wall Street.
So do you know that taxpayers actually made money on the Wall Street bailout?
I was unaware of that.
They did. They made, not on GM, but they did on the Wall Street part of the bailout. And does that make you feel any differently?
Well, I would have to do more research about it, but...
If I were right, it might.
Oh, sure.
Seriously? That's all it would take to put an end to the unrest. Well, as promised, we did go double check the numbers on the bank bailout, and this is what we found. Yes, the bank bailout.
As you see, there's no specific assertion of protesters. Protesters are just expressing their anger towards corporation of Wall Street, but they don't have any alternatives. Although there are many arguments of them, but it's just a collection of all social problems. It means the identity and goal of Occupy Wall Street movement is unclear. And number 2, politically influenced. Although Occupy Wall Street protesters say they are politically neutral, they can be used by politicians. Actually, many experts are saying that President Obama will use this movement to his re-election because Wall Street's companies were usually conservative and Occupy Wall Street protesters are angry with them. Although it's true that many protesters also have many complaints about present government, they would have more favor to Democrats than Republicans who still stick to neoliberalism. And number 3, mass in Zuccotti Park. Zuccotti Park is the place where Occupy Wall Street protests occur. And many people living in around Zuccotti Park complain the park is full of trash and too noisy. Since they started protests, there has been so many insanitations and violence and mess, and I think these are harmful to its community. And number 4, wrong perception. Occupy Wall Street protesters criticize companies that they are only concerning their profit without considering other people who starve and live in poor. But this is misconception of them. Corporations provide many benefits to society. They use people, capital, and technology to create value for consumers, employees, shareholders, and communities. Though competition, companies strive to gain market share by giving consumers good products at an ever low price or great products at high price. And number 5, we are 53%. Occupy Wall Street protesters, they are saying that they are 99%, but are they really 99%? There are many people who are against this movement, and one of them said, I work 3 jobs. I work a house can sell. My family insurance costs are outrageous. But I don't blame Wall Street. Suck it up, Euroliner's. I'm the 53% subsidizing you, so you can hang out on Wall Street and complain. Yeah. 53% is the proportion of taxpayers in United States. We are 53%. People say that the one who can criticize Wall Street is taxpayers, not the extra 47% who don't pay taxes. They argue that Occupy Wall Street protesters are not doing their duty. Therefore, there is doubt whether Occupy Wall Street movement is really representing 99%. And this is the end of my presentation.
Really big, and it's not really fish, it's